Hey everyone, this is Ross, and in today's video I thought I would talk to you guys about site selection in a backyard fruit tree setting and why that's so important in an area that is prone to late frost. You can see on these peaches here, this is my Alberta on the right. I have two of them right next to each other, and the Alberta is actually starting to swell. The flowers are starting to open, it's starting to put out a couple leaves. It's a very slow process because it's so cold still, but the fact that we've had such a mild winter is kind of activating these trees. We're getting some warmer soil temperatures. The soil hasn't been frozen for quite some time, it feels like. Even last night was really cold and it just didn't seem to really make a difference. I'm not seeing a whole lot on the Red Haven here just yet of waking up. And I think a lot of that has to do with the soil just being a bit cooler over here, because I really piled on the mulch on this side of the tree and in the middle of the two trees. But if you look on the right of the Alberta, you can see that there's no mulch or very little mulch. And this mulch, this material here, really helps regulate the soil temperatures. Even when it's warm out, the soil temperatures will stay cooler, which is kind of why, if I show you guys this tree I have over here, which are my jujube trees that are in pots. I've overwintered them outside. I've been doing this for a number of years. And all I do is I pile up the straw around the edges of the soil and around the edges of the pot. And that makes a big difference, just very simply, in regulating the soil temperature of these jujubes. And as a result, they don't wake up too soon. In fact, all of my fruit trees, when I did it like that, not just the jujubes, they stayed dormant longer. And if you can keep your trees dormant longer, we're going to have a better chance of withstanding a potential frost that can come in and kill our flowers. Another tree or plant, a fruiting plant, that's easily subject to these late frosts is the honeyberry. And this is exactly why in this area of the world we need to be getting late blooming varieties here. The further south we go, the more that these varieties need to be late blooming. You can see they're budding out. There's a little bit of green in there you guys can maybe make out, and pretty soon they're gonna have flowers on them. You know, and this is nothing new, guys. This is nothing that I'm like, oh my God, this is so unexpected. This happens every year. Yes, we've had a mild winter, but this is just something we have to deal with, and something that we have to really put into careful consideration before we plant our fruit trees. Where we put them really matters. And ideally, you know, if you were gonna grow, let's say, a peach orchard or a plum orchard or an apricot orchard, those are really prone to this kind of thing. You need to be further north. You need to be at a higher elevation. We would also preferably be in an area that is not getting hit with the sun at this time of the day, because there's no leaves on the trees. We need to be planting ideally on the north side of a structure or the north side of a mountain or a piece of land on the north slope, right? That's going to have a cooler soil temperature longer and enable these trees here that don't want to get hit with that late frost to stay dormant longer and avoid those frosts altogether. So I want to show you guys now the flowers, because the flowers I'm getting on these peaches now have not really opened up just yet, but these plums are much further along, and these are probably the worst of the bunch. You can really see some green in here along these branches. These are very slowly going to open up and flower, and there's quite a few of them. You know, I'd be looking at a nice crop off of this young tree if I wanted to let it crop so heavily. But the fact that the flowers are opening up ever so slowly, it is also slowly degrading or lessening the temperatures that they can handle. So if a hard frost were to come in, I would expect those to be all right. You know, and I would expect probably a hard frost between now and May, because we're only at March 1st. we still have 2 months of potential frost, guys. So here's some other trees in here, which is a really the worst area that I could have planted my plums and apricots. You can see how much green is on some of these. You know, I'm looking at a lot of fruits if these will avoid a frost, if they can stay dormant longer. You know, we do have some mulch on here, but really not a whole lot. And it's really all about that angle of the sun, because we're on the west side. It's midday, and the sun's gonna really just set somewhere right over here. And then pretty much all day, this area is getting that light, which is warming up the soil quicker than other areas. So I would say it's all right to probably have things like your apricots or your raspberries over here, probably your blackberries over here, your persimmons, which don't really wake up all that quickly, even your jujubes, and then underneath the tarp, excuse the camera work there, guys, is the fig trees underneath these tarps. In fact, these tarps are going to come off very soon. I'm going to remove all that material, and that's the really big benefit of having figs in this side of the yard, is that they're going to have their soil warmed up quicker so that I can get an earlier start to the season with the fig trees, which desperately need it here. You know, whereas these plums and these apricots, you know, I'd be all right if they ripened a month later than they did. You know, it wouldn't matter to me, because the fig is such a late crop as it is, and a tricky crop to even get here. So, you know, I think it really does matter, guys, when it comes to this site selection. It also matters with these flowers. I want to make this last point, is that these flowers, depending on how open they are, will handle different temperatures. And there's some charts that you guys can look at that are published by universities that have done studies on this, at what degree of these flowers opening up and at what temperature can they handle. And that's just pretty much it. So, you know, I'm hoping that they will stay dormant and closed longer. Maybe we'll get a cold spell here to cool things down, cool the soil back down, but it's looking unlikely. And hopefully we can avoid that frost sometime in April or even in March that may potentially harm these flowers. Because I know for sure that the next 10 days looks pretty good. They're going to continue to open, they're going to continue to flower. I would say even by maybe even March 15th, March 20th, I'm going to have fully open flowers on these plums, these apricots. It seems a lot earlier than last year, at least a week earlier than last year, maybe even 10 days earlier than last year. And then we have a longer period now of avoiding frost. And it's not like it's impossible, but that's what we have to do here. We have to basically plant and pray every year that we get these things, because you never know. So hopefully we get this to work. We'll have ourselves some nice food, and we'll talk to everybody soon. All right, take care. We'll see you guys for tomorrow's video, and check us out on Fig Boss Facebook and Instagram. Take care, everybody.